So, Pap and Bobby, we were talking about how we were. Everybody was caught off guard. I mean, my understanding is that even the Trump campaign had no idea, at least based upon the internal polls they had, that they were going to win. And the strategy obviously was for the Trump campaign to go so hard at Hillary Clinton on negativity that it basically kept her voters at home. And that's what happened. By all accounts, Donald Trump had less votes than Mitt Romney did when he lost in 2012. Yeah. But Hillary Clinton had even more, or I should even less votes than Barack Obama. She had 6.6 million votes that just never materialized, and that is compared to Obama's totals 4 years ago, which was not, and almost, I think, almost close to 10 million votes less than Obama in 2008. How did that happen?
Well, I do have a take, and it may, here it is. Progressives showed up, okay? They showed up because they understood how absurd it was not to show up. But I'm wondering whether or not they went down a ballot. When you look at these initiatives, these are very progressive initiatives we're talking about, ballot initiatives. Marijuana, right to die, gun control, minimum wage, all of these progressive issues that passed is far from Republican issues, okay? But they passed. So it almost leads you to believe, did they go to the polls, walk in, and leave the first top of the ballot empty? You almost have to wonder that, because Jill Stein didn't pick up. She didn't even register. Gary Johnson barely registered. So, Sam, as you're pointing out, where the hell did they go? And so
one of the things that people should look at, and one of the first calls that I made when I got off the plane last night and saw where things were going, was to Greg Palast, who's done a series now of exposés on the impact of the disposal of the Voting Rights Act on this election. And he had just come from Dayton, and he said that the vote in Dayton was essentially lily white because so many blacks were turned away from the polls. He said the same thing was happening in North Carolina, that there were massive purges of black voters in those states, and people were handed provisional ballots, which of course are never counted, and were not counted last night. They're never counted. So they give them the provisional ballots to get them to leave the polling place, but they had disenfranchised many pollers, and that's something that the Democrats ought to be. I wrote 2 letters to the Attorney General over the past 4 months asking her to look at these issues and to look at the hacking issues and the purge issues. But I don't think that the Democrats are paying attention to those issues at all. And there's a lot of black voters around the country. We have no idea how many.
Do you think, Bobby, that it was enough, though, to have changed this?
Well, you can. I think in the 2004 election, the suppression of the vote in Cuyahoga County definitely changed the results of the election.
Yeah, I agree with that, for sure. Yeah.
So, and if you're asking, some of the state margins were so narrow that, I think it could have changed the result.
There's 500,000 votes. Hey, Sam, what does this do to are the Clintons gone now? Is this a pivot? What happens to the DNC? Don't we start rebuilding the DNC? I say full disclosure, I'm not a Democrat. But don't the Democrats start rebuilding and saying we have some fundamental problems that we can't have another Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Donna Brazell kind of problem again, that we have to be honest with ourselves? Isn't that helpful?
Yeah, I mean, people, it seems to me, have gotten fixated on this notion of the DNC as some type of powerful force. It really is just an office with with a dozen people working in there, frankly. But I think, and I imagine, yes, I think we're not going to have. I mean, I think the Clintons are going to. I would imagine we're not going to see much of them anymore in the future. And I think all of the sort of Clinton in exile apparatus is going to sort of go into the wind. I mean, one of the things that we have now that we didn't have in the same way in 2004 and in 2000 when we went through this period the last time, and of course we went through that period the last time. It was a very different era. It was one that was, largely in the shadow of 9/11 for most of that period of time. And also we should say that, the Republican Party had not set such a precedent of trampling norms of the way that we govern in this country. But with all that said, I mean, this is a very easy exercise for people to do. Who is the most prominent Democrat in the country? And I think, your answers are going to be Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, not even a Democrat, but
totally
who caucuses.
agree.
And they have proven that both, between the two of them, they are both fearless in going after, Elizabeth Warren has been very explicitly going after Donald Trump. She's not afraid of that man.
No, she's not.
And Bernie Sanders has shown his ability to raise money. I mean, I think, there's going to be a reshaping of the Democratic Party, it seems to me.
Let me just mention one thing. Instead of pointing fingers at the progressives, let me just point at one really horrendous and intractable systemic problem here, which is the role of the media, the changing role of the media, and the relationship that the media has to the Citizens United case. The 2012 election cost roughly about $1.5 billion from all directions. This election was $10 billion.
Oh, God.
So there's about an $8.5 billion extra that was brought into this election by the Citizens United case. Where did that money end up? The money, 90% of that money ended up with the media because it's spent on advertising buys. And that's why you don't see any complaints about Citizens United in the mainstream media. Yes. Because they are making a killing. And look what Trump did. Famously, Les Moonves, the president of CBS, said that Donald Trump is very bad for America, but he's very good for CBS.
Yeah.
CNN made $1 billion of extra revenue from covering Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they were
that's free advertising, and Donald Trump is a trained media master. He's a carnival barker, and he knows how to attract attention, and he now knows how to appeal to the lowest common denominator. And if you give somebody like that a bullhorn the size of CNN and the size of CBS, he's going to get traction, and that really, I think, ultimately, he was able to harness all of these discontents that are having and alienation that are happening in our country, in such a divisive and negative way.